Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to Colorado. Today, I'd like to take a look at some of the one-room schoolhouses that dot the landscape. While these structures are no longer used, they provide us a fascinating glimpse into the past and the day-to-day lives of pioneer children. These schools were often tiny and uncomfortable log cabins or one-room schoolhouses. They were heated by wood and sometimes coal. They had little insulation and tended to be drafty in winter. Most of the original wooden schools burnt and were replaced by brick or stone, such as this building we see here. This is the Gas Creek School, and the original school, which was built in 1890, did burn down and was replaced in 1909 with the structure we see here today. The land that it was built on was donated by the Felling family on condition that if it was not used as a school within 2 years, that the ownership would revert back to the family. However, it operated as the sole school within the district for 49 years. The double entranceway that we see was added in 1909 to segregate boys from girls. The interior has been modified into a residence. However, the exterior has changed very little. It's an iconic example of a 20th century rural school. The schoolhouse eventually made its way back to the Felling family in 1958, and it was sold a few more times. During that period, it fell into disrepair. In schools like this, the teacher was often only 1 year removed from her students, literally having been a part of the class just 1 year before. The maintenance of the building all rested on the teachers. The teacher served as the principal, the janitor, the lunch lady, and everything in between. They focused on the 3 R's, as they called them: reading, writing, and arithmetic. They had daily oral resuscitations done in stages, or what we would now call grades. Later, spelling bees, math matches, and other games were introduced to make learning more fun. Many of the students did not go further than 4th grade. On a side note, I find the preservation of this property just striking. I mean, the swing set we had a look at a moment ago, and the picnic table here, and really just the general layout of everything on this property is as it was many, many years ago. You can look at some of the older photographs and see that. And you can really get a sense of how it was laid out. You can see the kids eating out here on a hot day and the flag flying here from this pole at one point in time. I just find it to be a very striking piece of architecture. And a lot of other people are fascinated by the building as well. You can see both amateur and professional photographers alike pulling off the highway to grab a snap of this schoolhouse. And this is why it's one of the most photographed schoolhouses in Colorado. Fortunately, in 2019, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places. This was made possible by a grant from the Colorado State Historical Fund. While we have not yet seen any restoration, I'm anxiously waiting to see what this gem looks like with a little bit of polishing. The good news is, we won't have to go too far to see such an example. About 40 miles south of the Gas Creek School District, you'll find the former Maysville School District. Maysville's began with kind of a fun name. It was called Crazy Camp. Why it was called that is not known. It was later changed to Maryville. It was named after a local pioneer woman named Mary, presumably. However, over the years, it was shortened to simply Maysville, where it's kept the name to this day. Personally, I like the original name, but I can see why they'd want to change it from Crazy Camp. The original Maysville School, which is not actually what we're looking at here, was built in 1870. Now that one burned, but what's significant about that, if it was built in 1870, that would have been 6 years before Colorado became a part of the United States. Well, heck, this land was actually Mexican land 22 years prior, and if you go further beyond that, it was the Ute Indian Territory and the Ute Indian tribe's land. And why that's significant is this would have been some of the earliest Western architecture here west of the Mississippi. And it really, to me, shows the emphasis that the pioneers placed on education. The bell we saw moments ago on the top of this school originally hung in the Union Sunday School and Congregational Church. At some point, those buildings were moved to the nearby town of Salida, and at that point in time, it was donated to the school and installed onto this building, where it sits to this day. Maysville was known for offering its teachers slightly better salaries. That said, they were given about $6.25 monthly, When you consider that the average laborer was paid $8 to $9 a month, this was still a very low salary. Now, the Maysville teachers had the added benefit of on-site living quarters. Because of this, water was piped into the school building, which made it one of the few country schools that didn't use well water with a water bucket and dabber for the children to drink from. However, these amenities were not enough to keep most teachers for more than a year. In fact, only 2 teachers returned to teach a second year for the entire lifespan of this school. And that's something when you consider that it was operated up until 1958, when most of the regional schools were closed and consolidated into 2 large districts, Buena Vista and Salida. At that time, the Maysville School Building became a bus barn to house the bus that they use to take children into Salida for school. Similar to the Gas Creek District School, this school began to fall into ruin. It was looking pretty bad up until 1977, when the school was donated to the Sakada Historical Society. This was not without some controversy. Some in this school district felt that they should not be giving this property away without at least knowing what the actual land value would be if they were to sell it on the open market. However, Glenn Everett from the Sakada Historical Society was quoted as saying he felt the building was worth more in historical value than they could ever get for it in sale. Ultimately, the school board voted to donate it to the Historical Society, and we're left with this absolutely beautiful museum and an example of what these schools looked like when they were new, and frankly, what some of these other schools could look like with a little bit of labor and a little bit of love. Currently, this is part of a larger museum system called the Salida Museum. The Maysville school portion of this museum has very select hours, and we were unfortunate to have missed them. Hence why I'm having to kind of do a walk around today. To plan your trip to the Salida Museum and see their most up-to-date hours, please visit the link below. I know I plan to return and support this museum. I mean, they have done a beautiful job. I've seen a lot of recreations and a lot of attempts to restore properties, and this is one of the better ones. I mean, when you take a look at the detail, it's hard to find one that the historians have overlooked. I mean, the rows of chairs are 2 period, the desks that the teacher would have used, the sleeping quarters, they have painstakingly restored this, and it really shows. So much so that I didn't even plan to stop. I did a double take from the highway and saw this little gem and had to pull over and take a closer look. And I'm really glad I was able to share it with you, but I'm even more excited that you have the opportunity to visit the Salida Museum yourself. If you've enjoyed some of the more well-preserved properties that we looked at today, you might also enjoy my video about Ohio City, Colorado. Here we're looking at one of the schoolhouses we looked at during that explore. Otherwise, thank you so much for the time that you've invested with me today. I really do appreciate it. And please do like, comment, and subscribe.